Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today we have the featured location Klyntar, and in Klyntar, after turn 4, you are going to merge your cards here into one symbiote. And a couple of important things to know about this location. I'm having to redo this video because the first take on it was inaccurate to say the least. These do not count towards destruction triggers, and so death is not going to have any synergy. The new card Null is not going to have any additional synergy outside of a normal deck. And the symbiote is a 1-cost card. So not only is it very easily counterable by a Shang Chi play, but it's also very counterable by Killmonger, by Elektra, and you can just destroy this a lot of different ways, and it's almost not worth playing into the location in most scenarios. But I do have 5 decks that I think are going to be very good with the location and how it functions accurately. We're going to pretend the last video never happened. First off, let's look at a couple of tech cards. So the first one is going to be a card that I don't own on this account, but it's going to be Arnim Zola. Arnim Zola is going to be able to take your big, strong 15, 20, whatever power cards you have in your symbiote, and it can destroy it and put it into 2 other locations. Now, this can do a couple of things. If you are running a Null, if you're one of the lucky few that has Null right now, you can destroy your 15 power symbiote. If the opponent is running a Killmonger, then all of a sudden your Null gets all 3 of those destruction triggers, and it becomes very, very strong. But if you don't have Null, then the 2 symbiotes, even though they're in a different lane, they're still very easily counterable by a Killmonger. The next tech card is going to be the beautiful Killmonger. Killmonger will destroy any 1-cost cards that are played, and the symbiote is one of them, so he will easily destroy any symbiote. And as long as you have initiative, they won't even have a turn to protect it with an armor or a Cosmo. It just will be easy to destroy for the most part. We can also tech in an Elektra. Elektra is going to destroy a random 1-cost card at that location, and the turn after, so on turn 5, the only 1-cost card in the symbiote location is the symbiote, and so this is going to be another very strong counter to any symbiote locations. For me, my recommendation is to play away from the location until either after it triggers or unless we have a way to really lean into and protect our card. And then the next tech is Electro. Electro is going to, similar to Oscorp Tower, he's going to have his own reveal. You'll have the negative ongoing ability, and then Klyntar will turn him into a symbiote. And so you will no longer have that negative ongoing downside, and you have the upside still in being able to play as many cards as you want to on the board. You could also do things like your Ebony Maw or your Typhoid Mary or any card that has a negative downside, but I think it's going to be a little bit too niche. You want a deck that's going to perform well outside of that location because it's only going to appear in 40% of games. And so you could try something with that, but I really think leaning into a normal counter style deck list or just a consistent list that typically wants to run Killmonger anyways, I think those are going to be our top performers. And so the first deck that I have is a Death Wave deck. And even though the location does not function very well with death, it doesn't destroy the cards whenever it merges them into a symbiote, it just merges them. This deck naturally wants to run Killmonger, and Killmonger is going to be one of those strong counter cards to any cards that your opponent puts into this lane. And so you can hold your Killmonger, you can make sure to not drop any cards into the symbiote location unless you want them destroyed, so you could always drop like a Carnage or a Yondu if you don't really care about the upside of them getting destroyed. You could drop them in the location like you're playing there, and then you destroy both yours and the opponent's symbiote with your Killmonger, reducing your death's cost. And if you don't have She-Hulk, and actually I have Moon Girl in this one as I was testing it out as like a high roll, I recommend either Squirrel Girl or Nova as a more consistent way to play the deck, since you're not going to see the location in every single matchup. And then if you don't have She-Hulk, you can always add back in like a leader or another card that was in the original Bayro list to perform just as well. But if you have She-Hulk, she's incredible as a kind of 3-piece combo on turn 6, or just making it more consistent for you to drop 2 cards along with your wave on that last turn. Alright, so next up we have a Deadpool Venom Death Wave style deck list. And this is going to work pretty well because it does naturally want to run Killmonger. And as I said before, Killmonger is going to be an incredible counter to anybody that plays into the into the Klyntar lane, and then they get a symbiote, you can destroy it very, very easily. Now, something that you really want to pay attention to is that you don't have your Deadpool into the lane that gets merged, because I don't think he returns back after you destroy it. And so this deck stays the same as from the original video, but the strategy behind it changes. Instead of playing into the Klyntar lane, we want to play away from it until after turn 4. After turn 4, it's a free-for-all. We can push our high power plays in that direction, but until then, we want to push our power into the other 2 locations as much as possible. And then next we have Don't Count Me Out. And this list, again, stays the same. So it naturally wants to run a Killmonger late in the game. So if the opponent decides to do an Arnim Zola on their symbiote and it sends it into 2 other lanes, you can do a Killmonger and destroy pretty much everything that they have. You have your Shang Chi just in case it's incredibly large or they run large minions. You have Rogue in case the opponent is doing like one really strong ongoing ability. So like if they have a Devil Dino, you can steal that ability. Now, if they stack ongoing cards, it's a little bit scarier, but a lot of times right now, what I'm seeing is that it's only one really strong ongoing ability in a lane, and with Rogue, we can counteract that. The rest of the deck runs to push initiative if that is what we want, or hold it back and play into just 1 or 2 lanes where we don't quite have initiative if for some reason we need to make sure that we turn second. So like if we're wanting to do a last turn Shang-Chi, we might not want initiative going into that last turn. But otherwise, this deck list runs just about the same as it would normally. You just want to play away from Klyntar until after turn 4. And then next up, I have my Attuma list, and it's a Shuri and Attuma, and it works very, very well. The reason I like this list is that it can do some kind of sneaky maneuvering of some really high power plays by hiding them behind the Invisible Woman. Now with Taskmaster, it's important to note that Taskmaster does not work well with the symbiote lane. So don't throw a lot of your negative cards into that lane and then after they merge on turn 5, drop a Taskmaster expecting it to be that symbiote power. It still goes off of the last card that you played. And so whatever the last card you put onto the board was, that is what Taskmaster is going to copy, not the overall power of the symbiote. And so with this list, you could use an Arnim Zola instead, but I like the high roll factor of being able to do a Shuri into just those really large, unstoppable numbers that make it really hard for your opponent to find their win condition. And then lastly, we have a deck that was recommended in the failed video by Robbie Willie, that runs a Doc Ock for some kind of hilarious interactions. So the main idea is that if you see the featured location, you can go either Psylocke, Elektra, or Wave. Elektra is your ideal play line on 3 into the featured location. On 4, you do a Doc Ock into the featured location that is going to pull 4 of the opponent's big resources in there, and then you can either use an Elektra or a Shang-Chi to destroy that massive card that you just created, and you drained the opponent of 4 of their critical resources. And so this can create some pretty crazy swings. I don't know how consistent this one was going to be. Whenever I saw the deck list, I thought it sounded really, really fun. And then after you clear up their side of the board, you could always hit yours with an Arnim Zola. If you don't get the featured location, you can ramp into an early Black Panther, into an Arnim Zola, into an Odin. Or if you don't have Electro, you don't ramp, you could do Wong, Black Panther, Arnim Zola. You could also go wide Wong if you go with the White Tiger into re-triggering with Odin. So you have a couple of different play paths, and I think today any kind of Electro deck will do pretty well, but this one seems very, very fun, and this is one that I'm excited to try out. And if you guys are looking for just some kind of big, crazy swings, I recommend trying out this one. I think it should do pretty well and force the opponent into some pretty bad situations. But those are my top 5 deck recommendations to try out today, now that they've been corrected. What are you guys seeing on the meta? Do you think this location is very impactful? Because for me, it feels like it's very meh, which is okay. We go from a Lamentus 1 to this, and I am okay with this. This one doesn't feel as polarizing as Lamentus 1, and that's a good change of pace for me. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.